The wind blew fiercely that night. Branches creaked and bent. The sky looked like it was burning in silence. And in the midst of that silence, a question echoed deep within the soul. What if God decided to cut you off today, not out of anger, not as punishment, but because of justice? Thousands live as if they're connected to something, but inside they're dry. No fruit, no life, no direction. How many times have you pretended to have faith while dying inside? How many prayers were just empty words? How many did you show a green leaf while your roots rotted beneath the surface? Here's the truth. There's no real life apart from the true vine. Without Christ, there's no purpose, no fruit, no salvation. And when there's no fruit, the pruning is inevitable. The Creator doesn't play religious games. He's looking for fruit that lasts. And when it's missing, the fire waits. This is not just another story. This is about you, about what you've done with the life God gave you, whether you've remained in Him or just hidden behind leaves. What if this were your final chance to stay connected? What if this message were the sound of the shears drawing near? Get ready. What you're about to hear could be what saves your soul. I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, He cuts off, and every branch that does bear fruit, He prunes, so it will bear even more. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire and burned. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in His love. I have told you these things so that my joy may live in you and that your joy may be complete. Here is my command. Love one another just as I have loved you. No one shows greater love than when they lay down their life for their friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants, because a servant doesn't understand what his master is doing. Instead, I have called you friends, because everything I heard from my Father, I have made known to you. You didn't choose me, I chose you. I appointed you so that you would go and bear fruit, fruit that lasts. Then the Father will give you whatever you ask in my name. This is what I command. Love one another. If the world hates you, remember, it hated me first. If you belonged to the world, it would love you as its own. But you don't belong to the world. I chose you out of it. That's why the world hates you. Remember what I told you. A servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you too. If they listen to my word, they will listen to yours as well. They will treat you this way because of my name, because they do not know the one who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would not be guilty of sin, but now they have no excuse. Whoever hates me also hates my Father. If I had not done works among them that no one else ever did, they would not be guilty. But now they have seen, and they have hated both me and my Father. This happened so that the words written in their law would be fulfilled. They hated me without reason. But when the Helper comes, whom I will send to you from the Father, the Spirit of truth, who proceeds from the Father, He will testify about me. And you also will testify, because you've been with me from the beginning. The voice of the Master was unmistakable. He didn't soften the truth with gentle words. He didn't dress it up in comfort. Apart from me, you can do nothing. And still, so many walk as if they could, as if the world had something better to offer, as if life without Christ could ever be enough. But how long does a severed branch survive? hours, days. It might still look green on the outside, but it's already dead within. Only a matter of time. That's the state of the soul that drifts from God. Right words, but an empty heart. A faithful appearance, but decaying roots. Many attend, sing, post verses, but don't remain. Because remaining isn't attending. Remaining isn't feeling. Remaining is obeying. Remaining is surrendering. It is dying to self and allowing the gardener to prune, cleanse, and restore. Are you willing to be pruned by God? Or would you rather hide your dry branches, pretending everything's fine? The gardener isn't looking for leaves. He's not moved by shade. Without fruit, he seeks what lasts. Real fruit, true transformation, character, holiness, selfless love, radical obedience. And what are you producing? Love, peace, faithfulness, self-control, or just words, emotions, and excuses? Every branch that doesn't bear fruit will be cut, not out of cruelty, but out of justice. The kingdom isn't for the lukewarm. It's for those who endure, those who submit to pruning, those who understand that the pain of the cut is the beginning of growth. The soul that remains, even through tears, blooms, even in pain, bears fruit, even in loss, multiplies, because its hope isn't in the soil, but in the vine. And the vine never fails, yet many have traded the true vine for an idol, for a custom-made Jesus, one who approves everything, a version of Jesus that doesn't ask for fruit, that only embraces but never corrects. That's not the Christ of John 15. That's not the Son of the living God. Jesus didn't come to decorate your life. He came to graft you into His. He didn't come to improve your existence. He came to replace it with His own. He didn't come offering comfort. He brought a cross. And every branch joined to Him must carry it, must die to self, must lay down its own will and say, Lord, prune whatever you must. Would you dare to say that today? To surrender yourself entirely to the Creator with no conditions, to say, here I am, clean what hinders, cut what doesn't glorify you. That is what it means to remain. That is how fruit is born. That is how one comes to truly know the Messiah. And that's the kind of garden God honors, the one cultivated in surrender, the one that doesn't fear the shears, the one that doesn't run from the fire of refinement, the one that knows without Him it's already dead. Because only when pride is gone, when the masks fall off, when the soul yields to the gardener of heaven, does the fruit begin to grow. Fruit that won't wither. Fruit that doesn't depend on feelings. Fruit that lasts because it comes from the Spirit. And are you ready to surrender your garden? Or will you keep trying to bloom without roots? There's a battle most never see, not fought in fields or trenches, but in the secret corners of the soul. It whispers, you don't need that much of God. It poisons quietly. You can manage life on your own. And slowly the heart grows cold. The branch begins to wither, but no one notices, because on the outside, everything still looks fine. How many times have you said you were okay, knowing deep down you weren't? How many smiles have you shown, while inside your soul was crying for help? The root stops drinking, the connection weakens, the soul no longer hears, and the flame fades. This is how spiritual death begins, slowly, a missed day of prayer, a small excuse to skip the word, a tolerated sin, just this once. A voice ignored, and the shears draw near. Christ said, if anyone does not remain in me, he is thrown away. Maybe. Not if he feels like it. He will be cast out. And that's not the voice of a tyrant. It's the warning of a Savior, the cry of a God who still waits for fruit, but will not allow dead branches to remain in His kingdom. What lives inside you today? Life or just the look of it? Fruit or just a front? Fire or just smoke? Many know the name of Christ, but have never known His pruning. They never let Him cut their pride. their lies, their double life, their secret addictions. They're painted over rebellion. And you, what are you hiding behind your leaves? Because the gardener doesn't see like people do. He's not impressed by branches that look healthy. He searches the root. He presses on what hurts. He cuts what hinders. And when he prunes, it's so you can live. When he cuts, it's so you can bloom. But the soul that resists his hand will break. There are hearts burning inside, burning with anxiety, guilt, confusion, religion. Not for lack of prayer, but for lack of remaining. Because the one who remains, even when he falls, he rises. Even when he stumbles, he returns. Even in tears, he waits. Because he knows the source isn't in him. It's in the vine. And here lies the key. It's not about you, not about how much you can produce. It's about how much you're willing to remain. Fruit doesn't come from human effort. It comes from divine connection. A branch doesn't strive to bloom. It simply stays connected, and fruit appears. But when you sever the connection, when your time, your desires, your sin, your opinions matter more, the soul begins to scream. First, it fades in silence. Then come the tears. Then, not even a cry, only numbness. And all that remains is religion. Routine, empty words, fake fruit. How long will you live like this? How long will you pretend everything's fine, while your roots wither in secret? This is the moment to decide. Will you keep running from the pruning, or will you finally surrender your heart completely? Because Christ didn't come looking for strong branches. He came for connected ones, branches that surrender, that confess their dependence, that understand without him, everything is lost. It's not about what you feel, it's about staying, day after day, even when there's no emotion, even when no one claps, even when no one sees because God sees. The gardener is watching, and wherever there is willingness, he works. Where there is obedience, he transforms. Today, the Spirit is knocking, not to give you comfort, but to cut away everything that blocks eternal fruit. Will you let him in? Then comes the moment most fear. The pruning, silent, precise, painful. There's no warning, no bargaining, just a dry leaf, and the hand of the gardener descending with purpose. He does it without cruelty, but also without hesitation, because he loves too much to let you stay the same. And you, what will you do when his shears reach you? Because they will. Maybe through loss, maybe through betrayal, maybe through silence, but it will come, not as punishment, but as purpose. The Father prunes those who bear fruit, not the dead ones, not the disconnected. He prunes the living, the ones still holding on, still breathing faith, still hoping. The cut is not rejection, it's a promise. It's God saying, I didn't create you for leaves, I created you for fruit. I didn't call you to entertain, I called you to transform. I didn't anoint you to please men, I anointed you to glorify my Son. Then the sacred pain begins, not in the flesh, not in the bones, but deep in the spirit. Because God doesn't prune with human tools. His blade isn't steel. It's truth, a truth that pierces, that disturbs, that reveals, that divides what's useful and from what hinders. Are you willing to bleed in his presence in order to live in his purpose? Many desire the glory, but reject the pruning. They want peace, but not obedience. They want the kingdom, but without surrender. But it doesn't work that way. Jesus never promised comfort. He promised a cross, a death, and then resurrection. But without death, there is no fruit. Without the cut, there's no renewal. What are you willing to lose to gain the Messiah? Your pride, your sin, your reputation, your plans, because everything not born from the vine will be burned, not tomorrow, not someday. The fire has already begun, but it's not a fire of destruction. It's a fire of purification, a flame that reaches the root and cries, "Wake up, dry branch." And there, in the middle of the wound, at the heart of the cut, when you feel like it's all over, God speaks. I am the vine. You are the branch. Remain in me, and you will bear fruit. It's not a maybe, it's not a try, it's a promise, because his word never fails, because his covenant doesn't change, because the same hand that cuts also heals. He doesn't prune to destroy you, he cuts to align your heart with heaven, to remove the weight that holds you back, to clear the way for his spirit to flow freely. Do you understand now? That pain you feel was part of the design. That loss was part of the plan. That silence, it was part of the process. God doesn't improvise, he prunes with purpose, and where he cuts, he also plants. He doesn't end with the wound, he begins there. He doesn't leave when you bleed, he stays. He doesn't abandon you in the fire, he purifies you and then embraces you. And when everything seems lifeless, when your branches are bare, your leaves are gone, and you've run out of strength to pretend, a new shoot begins to grow, small, invisible to the world, but visible to heaven. It's the sign that you remained, that you endured, that you didn't let go. And then heaven smiles, the root grows stronger, and the fruit begins to multiply, not because of you, not because of your strength, but because of him, because of the vine, because his spirit now flows through you. Now you're ready to bear fruit, ready to survive the drought, ready to bloom in the desert, ready to fulfill eternal purpose. But it all began with a cut. When everything burns, when there's nothing left to protect, when your pride is shattered and your soul laid bare before God, that's where the miracle begins. Because the fire of God does not destroy those who remain. It refines them, it cleanses them, it separates them from a lifeless system, from convenient sin, from rootless religion. It's in that scorched soil where eternity takes root. Can you see it now? What looked like an ending was a beginning. What felt like loss was a planting. What seemed like pruning was preparation. Christ said, "My Father is the gardener." And the gardener knows exactly when to cut, when to leave, and when to lift up the fallen branch. Maybe you've been down, still connected but lying on the ground, present but fruitless, alive but not truly living. But the gardener doesn't discard what still breathes. He cleans it, he lifts it, he repositions it so it can bear fruit again. That's the point. It's not about what you were or what you lost, not even about what you endured. It's about what's coming if you remain. Because fruit is not instant. It's not for performance. It's not for display. It's to glorify the Father. And that fruit doesn't come from talent, doesn't come from feelings. It's born from brokenness, from the branch that died to itself and chose to remain in the vine. That branch, though beaten by storms, ignored by many, stripped of its dreams, is the one that bears lasting fruit. And do you want fruit or just appearance? Are you chasing honor or holiness? Do you seek admiration or salvation? Because you can't have both. You can't belong to the world and expect the fruit of the kingdom. Christ was clear. Whoever remains in me and I in him, he bears much fruit. But before that comes the surrender, the denial, the cross. Are you willing? Because many want the promise, but not the process. They want the blessing, but reject the pruning. They want the fruit, but refuse to die. And it doesn't work that way, because the branch that won't die becomes barren, and the barren one is thrown into the fire. There is no middle ground. There's no safe zone. Either you bear fruit or you dry up. And we're not talking about fruits for social media. We're talking about fruit only heaven recognizes. Fruit of obedience when no one claps. Fruit of holiness when no one watches. Fruit of love when no one deserves it. Fruit of surrender when everything hurts. Eternal fruit, true fruit, fruit that glorifies the Father. Because it's not about you, It's about him, his glory, his kingdom, his will. Do you understand now? Everything burns so that what is not of God disappears, and what is of God remains. It's a fire that cleanses, a fire that brings order, a fire that exposes what was never real. And when the smoke clears, when the soul becomes still, when the masks fall away, when only the root remains, that's when the fruit appears. Small at first, sacred, delicate, but pure. And that fruit needs no stage, no spotlight, no applause, because it comes from heaven. It's the kind of fruit that breaks chains, that heals homes, that awakens callings, that fills deep voids, that shifts generations. It's the fruit that grows when you decide, I won't let go of the vine, no matter what happens. When you reject shortcuts, when you choose truth over comfort, when you embrace the process, when you welcome correction, then the fruit comes, not as a performance, but as a testimony, a living witness that God still transforms, still cleanses, still restores, still uses broken branches for his glory. And so, when it felt like everything was burning, you realize it wasn't you burning. It was his fire consuming the false to reveal what is eternal. And do you remain? I'm not talking about showing up. I'm not talking about wearing a label like Christian. Not about singing or quoting verses. I'm talking about remaining. Do you remain when no one is watching, when your prayers seem unanswered, when temptation whispers and the world applauds, when following Christ costs more than it rewards? Do you remain? Because Jesus was clear. He didn't say, whoever visits me will bear fruit. He said, whoever remains in me and I in him. Remaining is intimacy. It's obedience. It's war against your own will. It's denying yourself when everything inside screams to quit. Remaining is loving his word even when it wounds your flesh. It's embracing discipline even when it cuts deep. It's following when nothing makes sense. It's saying like Peter, Lord, to whom shall we go? You alone have words of eternal life. And yes, there will be days when no fruit is visible, dry days, cold days, days when your soul groans and the enemy whispers, where is your God now? But if you remain, it answers with peace that surpasses reason, with strength in the midst of weakness, with joy that defies circumstances, with true fruit. Not the kind that impresses people, but the kind that carries the scent of eternity. The kind that reshapes your character, that heals your home, that breaks generational curses. Do you want it? Then remain. Even if the world shifts, even if religion grows cold, even if your friends walk away, even if your soul trembles, remain. Because it's not about what you see, it's about what is growing in the unseen. God didn't call you to appear. He called you to be rooted, to be connected, to be a living testimony of the power of the Messiah. And that only happens when you die to self, when you stop chasing applause, when you stop compromising your holiness, when the fire has finished its work and all that remains is Jesus. Can you say that today? Can you say, nothing holds me, only Christ sustains me? Can you say, this fruit isn't mine, it belongs to the Father who lives in me? Can you say, if I lose everything but remain in him, I still have everything? Because that is the victory. Not in success, not in recognition, not even in miracles, but in remaining. Because the one who remains will never be shaken, not by temptation, not by crisis, not by loneliness, not by rejection, because their life is hidden in the true vine, in the Messiah, in the Holy One of Israel. And when that moment comes, when it's no longer you who lives, but Christ living in you, everything changes. Your words shift, your desires are renewed, your vision of the world is transformed. You no longer seek to be noticed, you seek to be faithful. You no longer crave applause, you crave heaven's approval, and that produces abundant fruit, fruit that doesn't rot, fruit that can't be bought. fruit that endures. But it never comes without a fight. There will be battles, there will be trials, there will be painful prunings you won't understand. There will be nights when your cries meet silence. But if you remain, if you hold on, if you don't run, if you don't retreat, you will see the glory of God, not as a show, but as a life transformed, as holiness deeply rooted, as quiet honor offered to the Father in secret, because that is the goal. Not success, not comfort, not fame, but eternal communion with the Creator, a life rooted in Him, a soul held by obedience, a heart anchored in His will. And you, how long will you remain? Until it hurts? Until they criticize you? Until the process no longer makes sense? Or until the end? Because those who endure to the end, they will be saved. Stay in the vine. Don't let go. Don't get distracted. Don't trade your root for a moment of emotion. The fruit that glorifies the Father is not born in comfort, but in surrender. At the end of all things, it was never about you, not about what you achieved, not about how much you suffered, not even how much you resisted. It's about Him, about His glory, about His name, about His perfect will. Jesus said it clearly. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit. That is the purpose. That is the final fruit, not recognition, not ministry success, not applause, but that the Father would be glorified. When your life reflects Christ, when your fruit points to heaven, when your story doesn't exalt you, but magnifies His mercy, that's where the Father is glorified. When you stop living to please people and start living to be found faithful. When your holiness isn't a performance, but a response of love. When your fruit isn't a trophy, but an offering at His feet. Do you see it now? This whole journey, the pruning, the drought, the testing, the discipline, was never about making you great. It was about making you obedient. And that brings glory to the Father, because heaven isn't looking for celebrities, it's looking for servants, branches that don't steal the glory, that don't compete, that don't boast, that only want to honor the gardener. That is true spiritual success, to be useful in His hands, to be faithful when no one sees, to bear fruit that touches eternity. Even if no one notices, even if no one claps, even if no one understands. The Father sees, and when He is glorified, your soul finds rest. The battle quiets, purpose is fulfilled, because this is why you were born, to bear fruit, to reflect Christ, to exalt the Father, nothing more, nothing less, nothing else. That's how this story ends, not with human applause, but with a surrendered heart, a life connected, a fruit that remains, a branch that chose to stay in the vine until the very end. Now that you've heard this truth, what will you do with it? Will you keep chasing fruit that fades, or will you dare to remain in the vine, to stand in truth, to glorify the Father with every breath? If this message stirred your heart, don't let the fire go out. Share it with someone who needs to hear the voice of truth. Let more people discover the hope only Christ can offer. And remember, the path won't always be easy, but in Him there is always fruit, eternal fruit that glorifies heaven. If this message blessed your life, don't forget to like, comment, and share, and subscribe for more content that strengthens your faith and brings you closer to the heart of God, because the greatest fruit we can bear is sharing the truth that transforms. May the Lord bless you. See you in the next video.